Hello guys, and welcome back to our ongoing series where we run through each and every episode of Star Trek Lower Decks. I am your host Sean Ferrick for Trek Culture, and by now if you're tuning in you probably know what way this works. We go through every episode of the season and we give everything that we like an up and everything that we don't like a down. Spoiler alert, haven't used this one very much so far this season, which is quite nice. With that in mind, I'm Sean Ferrick for Trek Culture, and here are the ups and downs for Star Trek Lower Decks Season 2, Episode 4, Mugato, Gumato. Now guys, our first up of the episode goes to the absolute pasting that Mariner gives to Boimler and Rutherford. And it's not just the fact that she kicks their asses why I'm giving this an up, although that's very nearly an up on its own. No, it's the callback to the Next Generation Season 2 episode, The Icarus Factor. And of course, it's the inclusion of Anbu Jitsu. This is a bloody weird sport that only turned up in Star Trek this one time on screen, and we finally get a callback to it. It's good fun. The return of the Mugato is going to feature quite heavily later on this list, but what it does is it sets in motion the Cerritos' mission for the week, which is they have to go to the planet and find out what's going on. There's a briefing in the observation lounge with Freeman and Shax, and we don't talk about the Black Mountain, and of course Ransom. Ransom gets one of my favourite lines of the episode, which is getting an up from me, which is poisonous, carnivorous, strength of 10 men. Sounds like my ex. Oh, how many of us can identify with that line. Down on the planet, we see the return of an Enterprise-era alien race, which is good fun, but also, once we get down there with Shax and Mariner and the whole crew, we see the return of the Ferengi, which were teased in the trailer. There's a slightly dark little joke going on here, and that's the lead Ferengi wearing a Mugato skin. Up, but I feel bad about it. Obviously, in the vein of Jurassic Park, if you're gonna take a bunch of stuff captive, you're pretty surely gonna get screwed up at some point, and of course the Mugatos get out of their cages, and away they go into the wild, and Rutherford and Boimler are running like hell away from them. Now they're dealing with two things. First, they're still smarting from the pasting they got from Mariner earlier, but also they now think she's Black Ops and that she is absolutely, just a special agent. Everything she said is a lie. The whole thing about her being Freeman's daughter, total nonsense. It's all a cover. This is because they were fed a line from one of our really fun inclusions in this week's episode, and that's Otis the barman. Now, Otis the barman is getting an up from me as well. Oh, he's just that perfect little, that kind of old school barman is, yeah, listen, see, I know all the secrets, yeah, Mariner, she's Black Ops, see, He plants the idea of Mariner's Black Ops training into Rutherford and Boimler, so that when they're down on the planet trying to get away from the various Mugatos, they're also trying to get away from her. Now they see her stabbing and sucking the blood out of Shax. That man's having an interesting few episodes. Just a side note there. So they freak out, they run away, and they end up bumping into effectively the Mugato hunter. He is a very small throwaway character who could have been quite forgotten except for the hilarious line, which is getting an up from me, which is, I've read 5 books on Mugatos. Of course, they thought he said he'd written 5 books. But when he says read, it's less of a shock when a Mugato jumps out and bites his head off. I'm sorry, but I kind of wet myself a little bit laughing at that scene. That was brilliant. Then I think everyone gets a little bit uncomfortable in a minute, because Boimler and Rutherford, I can't even make eye contact with you for this one. Boimler and Rutherford, they encounter 2 Mugatos, and they hide in a tree trunk, and the Mugatos get busy And then another one rocks up and they're like, oh great, you know, there's gonna be a big fight. And no, it starts pulling its horn off. Rutherford just deadpan goes, oh, I guess it likes to watch. Up, but I feel dirty? Now, the rest of the episode plays out fairly straightforward. They end up turning the Ferengi around in, you know, from their profit-based hunting of Mugatos to a profit-based conservation of Mugatos. It's actually quite funny. Not enough to warrant an up, but it's an enjoyable kind of conclusion to this storyline in general. What I am giving an up to is it's Rutherford and Boimler in general this week. So last week we had Mariner and Tendi. This week we got Rutherford and Boimler. They're mixing it up a little bit. They're mixing up the teams. Now we still obviously have Mariner down on the planet with them as well. You know, we generally tend to follow her a fair amount. But I really like this kind of mix and match of the friend group, which I really think that the characters, they need this to come out a little bit more. Now, that does lead me to my one down of the week, and it's Tendi this week. Last week we got lots of Tendi. She had an awful lot to do, and it was a great fun episode. And similar to that, she's given a task by Dr. Tiana to basically track down the last people who haven't got their physicals done. Now, there is a gag in that the last person on the list is only 08.019, turns out to be Tiana. Now that could have been Mariner, and that could have tied into the overall plot of is she special ops or not. The only thing is that while I enjoy Tendi this week and I like that there's a relationship between Tiana and Tendi, the whole event really does feel like just filler this week. It feels like, to quote Chris, the writers' room all got together and they got there at the end and were just like, oh, bugger. Did we use Tendi this week? Especially after such a good week for Tendi last week, for her to be just the, oh, gotta pad out that time story this week. It was a little bit disappointing. So, yep, unfortunately that is my down of the week this week. Now, just one last thing. When we're back in the bar and everyone's together and Otis the barman returns, I like him as a character. I've already said this, but can't you just imagine him holding court at the bar going, I heard Wolf 359 was an inside job, eh? That joke was too good from last season not to get revisited. Mash the two, I tell you. Mash the two. Take a walk with me as we go and do some cetacean observations. That is correct. We are back this week with our cetacean observations, and I realise now I should have been wearing this shirt the entire time for this section. My trusty notepad is back. However, this week was a little bit lighter on some of the Easter eggs, so I managed to catch my breath somewhat. First of all, we have the name of the episode itself. That is an Easter egg. Mugato Gumato actually calls back to the original series episode A Private Little War, which is where we saw the Mugato before. In the original script, it was called the Gumato. However, DeForest Kelley, everyone's favourite doctor, fight me, was unable to pronounce the word. So it was rewritten as Mugato. However, DeForest Kelley and William Shatner mispronounced it again and called it Mugato, which is where Boimler's gag comes from, of the inconsistent naming of this creature. So I really like that. That one is quite a clever callback. That is both, you have to do a little bit of reading on it, but that one pays off for me. On to the rest of the Easter eggs. We've already called out Anbu-Jitsu. Arakdijino was called out by one of the Denobulan scientists. Speaking of, we have two Denobulans. And even better, when the when the ape horn creature jumps out of them, we get the Denobulan face from Phlox. Oh, I love it. Sorry, that one got me. I like that one a lot. For the first time in our cetacean observations list, an additional up for an Easter egg all by itself, because lads, in that scene in the bar, that's a Kzinti. That's an Kzinti. Now, they've been in the animated series and they have been name-checked in Star Trek Picard. And we know that had a 5th season of Enterprise come along, they would have appeared. A live-action appearance is not far off. I'm saying that now. While Otis is warning the guys of Mariner's kind of duplicitousness, we look back over and she's doing that thing with the Dak-Tang knife. So I nearly gave that an up all by itself, but no, I'm going to hold on now. That's saved for the Kzinti, but love the inclusion of the Dak-Tang knife there. There is a call out to Tuvok and how he was placed on the Valjean and Chakotay's crew as part of a special ops mission as well. We see the return of the Ferengi whip, which we've only seen in the last Outpost and in Acquisition as well. Love Acquisition. Last Outpost is a strange episode, but I do love that whip. In a pan of one of the corridors, we see a Benzite walking along with its breathing apparatus and all. There's a call out to Quark as well, teaching the Ferengi that it's not all about the killing of animals, which will make them money. Sometimes the exploitation of animals will make them money as well. And when Rutherford and Boimler burst in, and they're about to, we think, attack the Ferengi with, that is clearly Kirk's Gorn cannon from Arena in the original series. They've just transformed it into a projector, which I just love as well. But that is most definitely a callback to Arena in the original series. Now, and that's actually everything for our list today, guys. Now, the nature of Lower Decks, I've absolutely missed something. So please, if you spot anything else, drop it into the comments below. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And remember that you can catch us over on Twitter at Trek Culture. You can catch myself at Sean Ferrick on all the usual socials. Now, until next week, you look after yourself. Probably going to do what we do and rewatch this episode 17 or 18 times and probably go, oh, I can't believe I missed that. But make sure you have a nice week till I see you again. I will be back with you next Thursday. And until then, you live long and prosper. Thanks, guys.